And now, here's Mike Muse with the political news.
So let's get right to it and meet the candidates.
That completes the opening statement.
We're going to get right to it.
On Sway in the Morning.
All right. Mike Muse.
Hey, good
Mike
morning.
Muse is here, everybody.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Hey.
How you guys doing today?
Doing okay, man.
Yes.
Okay, man. Let's just. Can we start with North Korea?
Yes, we do, man. We
Okay.
don't really get a chance to talk about a lot what's happening around the globe.
Okay.
So much is happening domestically almost every day, so it's really difficult to travel.
Okay, so I'm looking at coverage yesterday and the fact that North Korea did another missile test, right? One of the most successful ones to this date.
Yes.
They have proven that they have the capabilities of reaching Hawaii, and now we're on alert. First time nuclear warning alert that's been issued out, right?
Yep, in Hawaii.
In Hawaii. The president has spoken out about the North Korea situation. We're going to handle that.
Yep.
Are we on the brink of war?
So this is really troubling now. So we say every week with North Korea that it's troubling, but this has gotten progressively worse. So this is the first time that North Korea's missiles is as advanced as it is. And their technology now always surprises us every test launch. So this one went higher and further than any other launch before. And it also now swayed to what you alluded to, but not only can it get to just Hawaii, but now it can get to the intercontinental United States. So the entire United States could be literally hit by this nuclear arsenal if they choose to do it. The troubling factor with this now, Sway, is what do we do with them? So there's two options on the table. There's an option to go towards diplomacy to get China to be more of a stronger ally with us, to issue more stronger sanctions. And then there's an option of war. So Senator Lindsey Graham has kind of whispered at the idea of war. President Trump has not been specific enough on what it is that he wants to do. He keeps saying it will be handled, but what does that mean? So now we're going down the slippery slope when you have two unpredictable leaders within the President of the United States of Trump and then Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, at play here. So this game of chicken, as we always have called it, has gotten worse as we have gone on. And at this time, we have to figure out a way, at this point, Sway, is it about us living with North Korea actually having a nuclear bomb, right, and a nuclear warhead? Essentially, that is what they want. So it's a matter of, do we allow them to have a current measure of nuclear arms now? Do we freeze it for stability? Or do we go in and attack them from going any further? But Sway, things to be cautious of, if we go in and attack them, there will be a response, not just from North Korea, but our allies in South Korea will be will be hugely affected. We do have American citizens that are located in South Korea. They will be affected. And there is U.S. military bases off the coast of Korea and the Korean Peninsula that will also be affected in engaging in this war. So we can say this war can happen over there and not worry about it happening over here. But there are American lives that will be at stake and at risk over there.
And what does China and other nations lie in this situation?
China's from economics perspective, because China is the biggest receiver of North Korea. That is one of their largest, I wouldn't say trade partners, but North Korea purchases a lot of their assets and goods and utilities and commodities from China. So if China was to strengthen their economic sanctions on that, essentially crippling the state of North Korea, therefore making them unable to actually exist as a nation, right? Not exist as a nation being wiped out, but exist from having the basic needs and necessities, which is what we saw recently. So there was a really interesting video that got released. It was almost kind of in a movie, kind of cinematic way, of a North Korean military defecting into South Korea border. He literally ran from his military base over to South Korea. And what some are signaling is that the conditions in North Korea are actually getting much worse than it is. And then, so if we want to keep going around the globe and continue with conditions of worse, is the situation that's happening in Libya. It's for the citizens who may not be aware of what's going on right now in Libya. There's essentially a really disturbing, troubling video that got released from CNN International recently of Libyans' actual war, I should say refugees and migrants being sold as slaves. And so they literally went into this house and other places and saw these refugees being sold at auction in order for their work.
$200 to $500 for a life.
Yeah.
I saw pictures of 3 men tied up, hanging upside down by their ankles.
Yes.
I
and they talk about them from physical attributes in terms of they're strong. This one's tall. This one's broad shoulders. Really reminiscent of the slave auctions that took place back here in the United States, back during America's troubling times and troubling days. So the question is why, right? And then so what is the issue? The larger issue at play is we all know the continent of Africa is going through different issues in different parts of the region, in particular the western part of Africa. And so essentially these aren't necessarily Libyan citizens, but just more so refugees and migrants who have to pass through Libya in order to cross the Mediterranean Sea in order to get into Europe.
Right.
So the issue at play and at hand right now, Heather B., is the fact of the European Union has essentially isolated themselves in this protective fortress, if you will, to prevent all these migrants and refugees from actually coming over. So Libya is a transient spot for this. So the European Union actually has blood on their hands when it comes to the responsibility of it, because they have equipped the Libyan military and Coast Guard financially in order to stop this migration from occurring, because they don't actually want them hitting their shores. Because once they hit the European shores, then they're responsible financially, will be responsible for these immigrants who are now on the land of the European soil, and then would now have to be taken care of from that. And so they don't want that they don't want that economic burden, if you will. So what they're doing is they're keeping them in this space and place. The Libyan government knows that, and the Libyan, not only government, but the Libyan Coast Guard isn't even trained and equipped. Also, too, they're funding Niger. So Niger and Libya isn't equipped enough to handle this type of migrant force that is happening, and then what you do with all these migrants are actually coming in. So this is why they're being sold, if you will, because of this underpay that's happening.
This is atrocious. I mean, this is evil. It's just evil. I know a lot of folks, because I've been online the past couple of days, are really having conversation about what's going on in Libya.
Yeah.
I want to hear your thoughts. You know, the selling, enslaving people and selling them. 888-742-3345.
But still. Now more of the daily news on Sway in the Morning.
All right, okay. Man, this is some of the saddest information I've been watching online is what's going on, the slave trade that's happening in Libya. I can't even believe we're saying this in 2017, and and the world cannot tolerate what's happening. Mike Muse, you gave us some context. Just real quick again, what's going on for those who are just now tuning in?
So unfortunately, there's unfortunate situations happening in Libya in terms of the slave auctions that are occurring from the migrant and those looking for refugees over in Europe. Libya is right on the Mediterranean Sea, so these people migrating from different countries in West Africa had to pass through Libya in order to get to the Mediterranean Sea, in order to get into Europe. In the process, they're getting stopped and being kind of swept up into this auction slave trade, if you will, as a result of the European Union clamping down of not allowing the refugees to come into play.
I've seen the pictures. I started watching this on Facebook. Someone made a post on Facebook and just started digging. It's just sad.
It is.
It's
really
sad.
sad.
And this is a great way to use your social media now. This is a, you know, next to the pictures or whatever, the funny things, the memes and all that stuff. If you don't agree with this is a great way to let it be heard.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, what can we do, Mike? What can we do?
Well, we as American citizens have to put pressure on the President of the United States and the Secretary of State, and also the ambassador to the UN, who is Haley Barbour, to actually increase different sanctions, have UN and have implement sanctions against Libya, and also work with the European Union to allow these refugees easier access into the European Union. So I know we're talking about this globally, and this doesn't have nothing to do with us domestically, but as we began to talk about domestics in terms of refugees that we may or may not allow to come over, that's in the current debate right now. When we talk about immigrants seeking refugees here in the United States, these are things that we should be thinking about in terms of the humanity and the moral fiber of this as it relates to what we're witnessing with the refugees in Libya.
Ashley, good morning.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Ash.
Hey, y'all. How are you?
You know, we were disturbed about this conversation we're having about slaves.
It's unbelievable.
People being enslaved in Libya. This is it's evil.
Yeah, listen, when I heard about it, the thing is, this has been going on in Libya for about 4 years now, but because it's, we're in the age of technology and social media, it's coming out to the forefront. And that's the beautiful thing about social media. You get to see what's going on around the world, like, instantly. But it's disgusting. You know, I'm from Africa. This could be my family.
Yeah.
This could have been me if I stayed there. It's just like horrifying. And I don't know, like, you know, and Mike Muse. First of all, let me just say I love y'all. Listen to you guys every morning. I got this, what is it?
Thank you.
Satellite radio for y'all. But
thank you.
Mike Muse, you say that we need to send out, you know, reach out to the president and put pressure on the Secretary of State. And that's good. We should do that. But to be completely honest with you, they're not going to do anything about it because at the end of the day, on the back end of it, there's money being generated. There's a whole business on this that people are benefiting from. So we need to figure out as people, you know, what can we do to stop this? Because it's, you know, you think slavery, you think white people selling black people, but it's actually black people involved in this too, and that's what's the most disturbing part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know. This is just like a shocking thing, and I was, you know, we have to also remember that in America, we're a first world country. We have our struggles, but third world countries are still experiencing this.
Yeah.
Like, this is a normal thing outside of America.
Wow.
And even in America, it's, you know, the name slavery has been changed to human trafficking.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's still forms, you know?
I mean,
I don't know.
a lot of
This world we live in is
prostitutes, that's slavery. You know, a lot of people in voluntary servitude, that's slavery.
Yeah.
You know, you being held, you
Against
see
your will.
You know, you see these pictures of these young Libyan people being held at gunpoint with guns against their heads and all these horrendous conditions and laying on top of each other, some of them dead. Ashley, thank you for your call. And everybody else, leave a voicemail because I want to play it back at the end of the show. Calvin, Bungie, Rob, Dwayne, Octane, Boom J, Baptist J, do that. And we're going to keep this conversation going. Before you go, though, Mike Muse, what's going on with tax reform and domestically?
Yeah, so now we're arriving back in the United States. And there's a lot of difficulty that their Congress is facing right now. Yeah. The two biggest hurdles for Congress is tax reform legislation that is on the floor. That's become a priority for both the House and the Senate and the President of the United States. Also, two, in terms of raising the debt ceiling in order for us to pay for our costs and things that we've already spent. And Congress needs to raise that before the federal government runs out of money on December 8th and creates a shutdown. Okay. What we see that at play right now, a lot transpired yesterday. We don't have to go into all the details of it, but just summarize that President Trump sent out a tweet about 3 hours prior to receiving Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. But in this tweet, he said, meeting with Chuck and Nancy today about keeping government open and working. Problem is they want illegal immigrants flooding into our country unchecked. They're weak on crime and they want substantially raised taxes. I don't see a deal. So as a result of that, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer canceled the meeting coming in to see Trump. And here's what Trump had to say about that.
The other thing, they want tax increases and we want major tax decreases. So they decided not to show up. They've been all talk and they've been no action. And now it's even worse. Now it's not even talk. So they're not showing up for the meeting.
So then Nancy responded to that on Twitter, and she says, quote, no one knows that now we know his verbal abuse will no longer be tolerated. His empty chair photo op showed us he's more interested in stunts than addressing the needs of the American people. Poor Ryan and McConnell relegated to props. Very sad. So, Sway, this is all about raising the debt ceiling. So this has nothing to do with taxes. So this is to make sure that the federal government is funded through December 8th and people don't lose their jobs if you work with the federal government. What's interesting about that, though, he was asked in that, who will he blame if the government shuts down? And he said he will blame the Democrats. What's interesting, though, about that, though, is, Sway, the Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the President of the United States of America, so they are in the majority. What's interesting, though, what President Trump has done is put Paul Ryan into an interesting position because, Sway, Paul Ryan doesn't have the votes in order to keep the government open without the Democrats. Yeah. Moving on really quick to the last item, which is taxes. So, I mean, that's a totally separate issue. So, you're talking about the deal negotiations. Sway, I've been hesitant to really go do a deep dive into taxes here.
It keeps changing,
It changes all the time. So, there's a House bill that's completely different from the Senate bill. Yeah. If the Senate bill, the House bill has passed, but if the Senate bill even passes, then it would have to go into this position called reconciliation. So, we're just on watch for that.
We're just on watch for it. Okay. Well, let's keep the conversation going online. What do you want the citizens to comment to you about? Because
Yes,
President
if you're
Trump also
interested in
brought up some other stuff, too.
Yeah, so if you're interested in knowing more about the taxes and kind of what's going on and what the Congressional Budget Office have scored it and how this affects you if you're a college student, how this affects you if you make under $75,000, how this benefits you if you make over $100,000, please feel free to hit me up on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at I am Mike Muse. That's M-U-S and Sam E.
All right, give it up for Mike Muse, man. Mike Muse, thank you, man.
Thank you.
Up next, we got the IBF welterweight champ, Errol the Truth Spence. He got a fight coming up against Lamont Peterson. He's going to be in a special edition of Sports Would Have to Be.
Eli Manning benched.
Shade 4-5. What?
Pulled up in the big boy.